Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or waking around the middle. That seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere, despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. You're putting in all this effort and it feels like you're moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, we're going to talk about the 4 biggest reasons why you stopped losing weight, why you've plateaued, why things are not working anymore despite cutting calories, despite hitting your macros, besides doing all the exercises, right? Why is this happening? Because we see this all the time. All the time. You're doing all the right things and it's just not working anymore. So what are the 4 big categories that are holding you back? Before I go into that, I do want to tell you about very exciting news. We have brought back something that we have not done in 2 years. We're so excited to announce it. We are bringing back our 8-week fat loss coaching program. It's just 8 weeks long. You get a coach assigned to you. It is a group environment. So you're going to have, each coach will have 5 to 6 women in their mini group. We have big calls all together. You get access to your coach one-to-one. There are mini group calls, big group calls, customized nutrition programming. You get access to different workouts, so many resources. We are so excited to bring this back. So if you want details on that, make sure that you check the show notes. That does start the week of January 13th. Spots fill up super, super quick. So make sure you go check that out beforehand. But this is to help you start fat loss the right way without cutting calories, without cutting carbs, without doing tons of crazy exercise. It is going to be amazing. So make sure you don't miss out on that opportunity. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes of today. The 4 big reasons, because man, does it ever suck to feel like you are doing everything right, that you are putting in all the effort and yet nothing, right? And this is usually the state that our clients come to us in. They typically are in a calorie deficit, right? They're eating low calorie, they're eating clean, they're not having a ton of processed foods, they're doing their workouts consistently, even getting in enough protein, but yet the weight doesn't move. They don't look any more toned than when they started. They're still tired. They're still suffering with some bloating. They're still struggling with their sleep. They're moody. They've lost their zest for life, their joy. The things that they used to like to do just don't do it anymore. They just don't feel like themselves, despite working so hard. So what gives? Well, we can really boil it down to 4 different categories that we really need to tackle that tend to be at the root of your weight loss resistance or why you're struggling. So the 4 categories are catabolic physiology, which is basically your body's favoring muscle breakdown over everything else, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and excess inflammation. So I did a whole podcast on insulin on its own. I did a whole podcast on inflammation on its own just 2 or 3 weeks ago. So make sure you go check those out because I'm not going to go crazy deep on all those. But unfortunately, with these 4 categories, when it comes to perimenopause and the years that follow, because of that wonderful hormone changes that we start to see, we're going to see an increase in all 4 of these categories anyways. So we're going to break down each one for you here. So the first one, catabolic physiology, basically muscle loss. Honestly, this sucks. It sucks. So why is this a problem? Why do we want to have muscle mass? Well, muscle is what makes us look fit and toned. If we don't have muscle, even if we lose weight, we got nothing to show for it. So we don't look the way that we want to look, right? So that's the first thing. But muscle is really important because it helps stabilize our blood sugars. The more muscle you have, the more insulin sensitive you are. When we're in perimenopause, we actually become more insulin resistant because that's one of estrogen's roles. So we find that if you are insulin resistant, right, you're going to be more in a fat storing mode. I talked about this a lot, like very nitty gritty a couple episodes ago, but we're going to talk about it again in a little bit here. So muscle mass helps us with that blood sugar control. Muscle mass also helps us with our metabolism. What is our metabolism? Basically, it's how good our body is at burning calories. If you have a fast metabolism, that means your body is good at burning calories. That's awesome. That makes weight loss way easier. If you have a slow metabolism, that means your body's not so good at burning calories. If your body's not so good at burning calories, even when you're exercising, even at rest, even if you're walking, that means that it's going to take a lot more effort to burn the same amount of calories as someone with a faster metabolism. So it means your body sucks at burning calories, which means it's a lot easier to gain weight and a lot harder to lose weight because your body is more in like a fat storing mode. It's not working optimally. Muscle helps contribute to that. Muscle burns a lot of calories at rest. So just by having more muscle on your body, you'll burn more calories even when you're sleeping. That is amazing. That is what we want. And then, of course, muscle is also important for decreasing hospital stays. You're going to see recovery from your surgeries and injuries is much greater. Typically, it's going to correlate with a higher bone density as well, which is amazing because we know that when estrogen declines, osteoporosis risk does increase as well. There are so many reasons that you need muscle mass. But the big one is metabolism and blood sugar. So it really does help you maintain a healthy body composition. So what causes this muscle loss? Well, there's three really big categories. The first one is chronic dieting, especially fast fat loss. So I've talked to thousands and thousands of women at this point, and they've all done at some point some sort of rapid fat loss thing, right? Whether it was Weight Watchers the first time, or maybe it was keto the first time they did it, or maybe it was whatever diet they did, right? There was always one that it seems like you lost weight really quickly, really easily, right? When we see fast weight loss, usually it doesn't just correlate to fast fat loss. It actually correlates a lot to fast muscle loss. Because we see this very often. We don't like to see women lose more than 2 pounds a week. And here's why. When we're seeing larger drops than that, especially if it's not coming from inflammation, what we see, sorry, I'm a little bit recovering from a cold here, so if I clear my throat a couple of times, that's why. But what we see is when we see weight loss quicker than that, a large portion of that goes to muscle. And this happens every single time you diet, especially if protein wasn't a focus during your fat loss phase. So you weren't getting 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, especially if you were not focusing on like true resistance training. So not the YouTube videos, not the HIIT. Like I'm talking about like actually lifting weights, taking a 2-minute rest, trying to lift heavy. You can't lift two above whatever you're trying to aim for, right? A lot of people didn't do that with their dieting because that's not what was popular back in the day, right? 10, 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't the thing. So what we see is you lose a lot of muscle during those fast weight loss strategies, whatever it was that you implemented, right? So maybe you lose 3 pounds in a week, but you lose 1.5 pounds of muscle and 1.5 pounds of fat, right? Whereas if you lose only 2 pounds a week, it's 1.5 pounds of fat and only 0.5 pounds of muscle. So what we see is when we're losing more muscle, our body fat percentage actually goes up. And also if we're losing a lot of muscle mass post dieting experience, your risk of weight regain increases. So we see that the more muscle that you have, the less likely you are to see this crazy rebound in weight gain compared to people who lose a lot of muscle mass during their dieting process. And we already know that during perimenopause and menopause, we lose muscle mass so much faster once estrogen declines because estrogen is a building hormone. So when it declines, now we have a hard time building muscle mass, but we also have a hard time maintaining it. The other thing too is when estrogen declines, it's a lot easier for cortisol to go up. And one of the things cortisol does is it breaks down muscle mass for energy if we are in a stress state, if we're not feeding ourselves often enough, which again, if we're fasting, if we're eating low calorie, our body's going to turn for energy somewhere else. And it's going to choose it from muscle first over organs and things like that, right? So the very things that you're doing to try and lose weight and be healthier can actually be very detrimental instead and slow down your metabolism even more. And we know during perimenopause and menopause, this is already accelerated, right? With the loss of estrogen, higher cortisol levels. We also know that the 10 years or the 3 to 4 years leading up to perimenopause, you can lose up to 10% of your muscle mass. That is astronomical, and that continues post-menopause, right? So you can see how once you hit perimenopause and that muscle loss is so much more likely paired with the things that you were doing before or are currently doing, that's really going to cause some issues to your metabolism, making it really hard for you to lose weight. So you might be like, well, I'm in a calorie deficit. Maybe it was a calorie deficit before, but now with less muscle mass, it's not. But we also can't go any lower because then you're eating so low that you're not getting enough energy to actually support your body. And we see this all the time in women. This is why we end up actually having to go through a reverse diet and having to increase their calories slowly, which I also did another podcast on that you can go back to. But this is a massive reason that we see so many women struggling with this catabolic state, this low muscle mass state, is because they've done so much chronic dieting in the past. Then you add stress on top of that, which we are all stressed out, right? I talked about how cortisol is going to break down your muscle mass. We're all stressed out. We've got financial stress. We've got relationship strain. Maybe we're feeling lonely. We're feeling grief. We're busy taking care of other family members. We're not sleeping enough. We're under eating. We're cutting out our carbs. We're fasting. We're having coffee on an empty stomach. We are go, 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 go. We are rushing all the time, taking our kids from one place to the next. Working through our lunch breaks. Like we are just go, 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 go. That is all going to also promote muscle loss. And then we have sleep. Sleep is so massive. Studies show 2 groups, calorie deficit. One group gets 5 hours or less of sleep. The other group gets 7+ hours of sleep. The group that had less sleep, they were both in a calorie deficit, but the group with less sleep lost more muscle mass. They lost less fat, and they had more issues with cravings because their hunger hormones were imbalanced. So you can see how, in perimenopause and menopause, we're already probably in a chronic dieting state, right? We've done lots of diets by this time in our life. We are super stressed out, dealing with life changes, maybe empty nesters now too, right? We have so many stressors in our life that I listed off. We're also not sleeping well. All of this just predisposes you to lose so much muscle. When you lose muscle, it makes weight loss so much harder. This is why we really encourage women to try and put on muscle mass first before going into a fat loss phase, because it makes it easier and you feel better. You have better energy, and the results that you get at the end of that look so much better, because when you lose weight, you lose fat, but you don't have the muscle to show for it. You're like, okay, I lost the weight, but I don't look the way that I want to look. Yeah, because you're missing the muscle. That's the important part for looking toned, right? So one of the main reasons that you could be, eating really well and hitting your calories and being consistent and eating clean and doing the workouts, you're dealing with muscle loss or not enough muscle. And this is one of the reasons that we'll see women really struggle with seeing results. Muscle is so important. It's really a non-negotiable. The more muscle you have, the easier the transition into perimenopause and menopause is going to be. It's going to help you against chronic conditions as well. So you really want to make sure this is something that you are very aware of. And this is something for coaches to know as well. Like I get a lot of DMs and messages from coaches asking if we do mentorship and things like that. And yes, we are coming out with a certification. I'm very excited about it. We're working on it as we speak. But this is one of the things is, yes, they can hit the macros. Yes, you can put them in a calorie deficit. Yes, they can be eating clean and still not see results. And this is one of the 4 reasons that we typically see in perimenopause and menopause in particular as to why you're not seeing changes. And it's this muscle loss that we really need to focus on and pay attention to. Number 2, oxidative stress. What is it, right? What is oxidative stress? In simple terms, I'm going to simplify it a ton here for you. It's that the body has too many unstable molecules called free radicals, and you do not have enough antioxidants to neutralize them. These free radicals have unpaired electrons, so they tend to steal them from other molecules, which is then going to cause damage in your body. It's a natural byproduct that happens by essential processes like metabolism, for example. However, they do increase in states of stress and unhealthy conditions, which I'm going to cover in a little bit here. Why is that a problem? Why is oxidative stress such an issue if it's a normal occurring thing, right? Well, when our oxidative stress gets too high, we see DNA mutations and accelerated aging. So we see like things really start to deteriorate, your skin, your muscle, organ health, DNA mutations. That's never a good thing. We see it affects protein and damages them, so then their function and structure gets impaired. And protein in our body is so important because it's the building blocks of literally everything. Lipids, so it causes damage to like the fat membranes, which again, not good. That increases inflammation, not a good thing. And all this damage is really going to disrupt the normal cell function and contribute to 4 big things. There's more, but we're going to break it down to just 4 things. Chronic disease risk is going to go up, like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, for example. Aging, our skin looks older, wrinkled. We lose that elasticity when things get damaged. We're going to see hormonal imbalances. We often see an increase in inflammation when this oxidative stress comes up, and then cortisol is going to come up because of that, which can make hormonal issues worse. It really tanks our hormone production a lot, which is not great because what we see is cortisol, when it's present, it's going to slow down your thyroid function, which slows down your metabolism. It is going to prevent or really disrupt hormone production. So we start seeing low estrogen levels that more aggressive than they normally would be during perimenopause and menopause, like a very drastic drop. Crazy drops in progesterone, testosterone can be affected. We can see our androgens go up, leading to PCOS type symptoms. There are so many things that happen there. It also impacts your blood sugar control. It also results in more bloating and gut health issues and more food sensitivities that you never had before. We start seeing issues with your liver health, your energy, your sleep, your muscle mass. So you can see how that can cause so many problems as well. And this oxidative stress also reduces your immunity. So you'll get sick more often and it takes you much longer to recover. So what causes these oxidative stressors to increase, right? And there's quite a few. So medications like some antibiotics, some anti-inflammatories, chemotherapy, and recreational drugs can all increase those free radicals in your body. Poor diet. So we're looking at highly processed foods. This includes your keto bars and your keto pancakes and the keto breads and the low carb whatevers, right? Those are all really processed foods. Foods that are low in fiber. We're not having mostly whole foods. We're eating things that mostly have a label. Poor sleep. It reduces your ability to repair oxidative stress. So we can have a lot of oxidative stress, but if we're not sleeping, it just accumulates as our body can't get rid of it and heal the body. Stress, like we talked about, that's going to increase cortisol, which triggers an inflammatory response. Go back to the inflammation podcast for more on that. That's going to increase your free radical production as well. And again, stress comes from rushing around and financial stress, emotional stress, relationships, but also from over-exercising, from under-eating, from not having enough carbohydrates. All those, fasting, not sleeping enough, all those things are going to increase your cortisol. Alcohol. It is actually metabolized into a toxin in your body, and it's going to promote oxidative stress in your liver and other tissues. Alcohol is a toxin. There is no benefit to it. Smoking. Smoking contains thousands of toxins that generate free radicals and deplete our body of antioxidants, which are important to combat the oxidative stress. We need that balance. The antioxidants is what's going to help us. Inflammation. Our immune system is going to produce free radicals to destroy pathogens when there's infection or when there's injury. That's good. It's going to send the messengers to like bring inflammation to that area because it's fighting off a thing, helping you heal. That's why like cuts get red and swollen and warm. However, when we have chronic inflammation from, stress and the kinds of foods that we're eating and the fasting and all those things, we just have this constant free radical production happening all the time. And that results in a lot of oxidative stress in our body. Low estrogen also, because estrogen helps keep inflammation in check. So as estrogen declines, we're naturally going to see oxidative stress come up as well. Age, because our natural antioxidant production is going to decrease as we age. And mitochondrial dysfunction as well, because damaged mitochondria are going to produce more free radicals too. So again, that's a lot of stuff that contributes that you can probably be like, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's me. That's contributing to oxidative stress. And oxidative stress and low muscle mass are both going to result in your inability to be able to lose weight despite hitting your macros perfectly, despite being consistent in the gym and quote unquote eating clean, right? So that's number 2. And I'm going to go over how to fix these things after at the end. I just want to get through all these first. Number 3 is insulin resistance. Again, I did another podcast on that. You can go back and listen to it. But basically, what is insulin resistant? It is your body does not respond to insulin anymore. So usually you eat something or you're in a high stress state, your body breaks down your muscle mass for energy, pushes into your bloodstream as sugar because you didn't eat enough or you're fasting or whatever it might be. And your body's like, oh, there's sugar there. We need to do something about that. So then your brain's like, oh, yes, let's send insulin. Insulin will then take that sugar, knock on the doors of your cells, and deliver the sugar into your cells. But what happens is if this cycle happens all the time, and we keep seeing this big rise in sugar in our bloodstream from a ton of stress or from overeating a ton of processed foods, we're going to see that this, or if you're snacking all day too, you're just constantly having high blood sugar all the time. Your body is just like, oh, we're good at ignoring it. We're so used to insulin being there that you can ignore that knocking on the door. So it requires a lot more insulin to actually open that door to deliver the sugars. So your body becomes more insulin resistant. And then why is this a problem? Is because the way insulin resistance and cortisol work together is that when they are both present together, which is very, very common, because if you are fasting and you are under eating and you are just go, stressed out, not sleeping, your cortisol is going to be higher. As long as cortisol is high, it is constantly dumping sugar into your bloodstream. Add on to that you are like, maybe you're snacking a lot, maybe you're having a lot of processed foods, maybe having carbs by itself, because you should always eat like some veggies and protein with your carbohydrates. You never want to have them on their own, but you need to make sure you're having enough carbohydrates because that brings cortisol down. So there's a very delicate balance there. But what we see is when insulin and cortisol are present together, it actually decreases your body's ability to release fat into the bloodstream to be used as energy, and it focuses on storing it. So we see this accumulation of fat mass, which is not good, right? Because that makes it really hard to lose weight. So again, you could still be eating really clean and you could still be, doing all your workouts. But if we are snacking all the time, if we are going through, some days are really higher calorie, some days are really low calorie, our sleep is a mess, all these things, then we can see that insulin and cortisol issue is still there despite you doing quote unquote everything right. And this is very prominent in perimenopause and menopause because insulin resistance is far more likely when estrogen declines, especially if these things have been happening for a long period of time. If you've been like a chronic snacker, if you've been someone who skips meals a lot, who is very type A and go all the time, working out, fasted, like if these are all things that have been happening that you could get away with before because your estrogen kind of masked that was a problem. But now that estrogen's gone, your body's like, yep, that's not okay anymore. So it's not like it happened all of a sudden. What's actually happened is it's been building up for a long period of time. And now that estrogen's gone, it's really exposed what's been going on in your body. So what causes insulin resistance? Well, low protein, because protein helps stabilize your blood sugars. We need enough protein in our diet. Also helps support building muscle mass, which also helps with your blood sugar, right? Low fiber. Fiber is super important. It comes from carbohydrates. Okay, so you do need carbs, right? But fiber helps keep you full longer. It helps stabilize your blood sugars. It slows how quickly you're digesting, which is good. We want that. If you are eating a lot of highly processed foods, those are typically going to spike your blood sugar because they're already partially broken down. There's lots of like chemicals in them and preservatives and all those things, right? If you have a lot of visceral fat, so if you already have a lot of belly fat, unfortunately, belly fat's going to release inflammatory chemicals that interfere with insulin signaling, and it's also going to release those inflammatory chemicals, which when inflammation goes up, we're going to see the cortisol go up, which is going to lead to that whole cascade that we talked about. If you are physically inactive and not moving at all, or if you exercise too much, both can actually contribute to insulin resistance, which is very interesting. Stress, like I talked about, cortisol goes up. It's constantly dumping sugar in your bloodstream. If you have insulin and cortisol in this balance, right? Like cortisol is always dumping sugar into your bloodstream. Insulin's always trying to get rid of it. Cortisol will always win. This is why addressing cortisol is so important when it comes to your success. And again, cortisol can increase so much easier once our estrogen levels decline. If you have poor sleep, that's also going to cause more insulin resistance because your cortisol is higher and you're never recovering. Your body is very stressed out. You're going to have more inflammation. You're going to have that oxidative stress I just talked about. We see the declining estrogen. I just talked about that one. More inflammation is well going to cause more insulin resistance as well. Poor gut health can actually contribute to more inflammation. So if you're dealing with like leaky gut and lots of food sensitivities and things like that, it can actually increase the inflammation and cortisol, which then again lead to more insulin resistance. Some medications like corticosteroids and some antipsychotics can also reduce insulin sensitivity. Food timing, like I mentioned, you're snacking all the time. And then also we see this in women all the time who did keto or cut carbs really low. Your body then doesn't know what to do with sugar. And then when inevitably you decide to have it again, because no one ever lives low carb forever, it's really unrealistic. Then when you go back, your body has no idea what to do with it, or you binge on it, right? You're like, I'm low carb, I'm low carb, I'm low carb, I'm low carb. And then boom, you have a bowl of pasta, but instead of having one serving, it's like 16, right? Now you have this massive increase in blood sugar. So this constant, like really high, really low, really high, really low, your body has no idea what's happening. So then your body doesn't know how to use that properly. So you become insulin resistant. So we actually see a lot of women that we've worked with who came in keto. We've had to increase their carbohydrates very slowly by like 10, 15 grams a week or every other week to help their body become more insulin sensitive again, while also making sure we're working out the right way, while also working on food timing to really get the body to respond well again. So again, those are all ways that you can result with insulin resistance. And again, that's going to increase already during perimenopause and menopause. So this is why it's so important to understand that, again, you can be eating clean. You can be doing all the right things. But if we're not addressing this underlying issue, you're really going to struggle, right? And then number 4 is excess inflammation. So again, I talked about this in a past podcast. I'm not going to get as deep as I did there. Otherwise, this podcast will literally be like 4 hours long. But inflammation, let's briefly cover what it is. You have acute inflammation, which is short term. That's your body's natural response to injury or infection, right? So we cut ourselves, we just twist an ankle, whatever it might be. We start seeing inflammatory processes to help us heal. So you get the swelling, you get the puffiness, the redness, the heat, right? Whereas, and that's like meant to help us heal. Then we have our chronic inflammation, which is long term. So compared to short term, which is like, again, short term acute inflammation, when we see chronic inflammation, it's low grade, low level, but it's persistent. It's always there in the background. It doesn't go away quickly. And you might not even have any symptoms. You might not even realize that it's there. And that's why it's so dangerous. So why is it so bad to have inflammation in our body? Well, it increases that oxidative stress, which we just talked about is not a good thing to have, right? Because then we see our risk of cancers going up. We have more cardiovascular disease risk. We have all these risk factors. That is poor health. When we're in poor health, that doesn't equate to healthy weight loss that we're going to sustain, right? Or it's going to result in more muscle loss and things like that. We also see physical symptoms like exhaustion, joint and muscle pain, bloating, other digestive issues, headaches and migraines. We see weight gain because inflammation is going to affect our metabolism. It's going to increase our cortisol and fat storage. We're going to see more water retention. So the scale will go up, right? More mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, memory issues, even worse sleep. You get sick easier and recovery takes longer. So you can see how all these 4 categories really have similar results, right? Like a lot of similar symptoms, I should say. So this is why it's important to be able to take inventory and figure out what the heck is happening and what's causing it. It's super key. So what's causing our inflammation? Well, poor blood sugar control. That increases inflammation. Alcohol and smoking, both increase inflammation and fluid retention. Stress, cortisol is going to increase all of these categories, right? Toxins. So this can be things like BPAs from plastics that we're exposed to, toxins in the air, our work environments, things like that. The SAD diet, so the standard American diet, so highly processed foods, deep fried foods, lots of desserts, buying things with a label all the time, lots of sodas, right? Chronic infections, that's going to result in low-grade inflammation that happens quite often. Not enough activity or too much exercise, both can cause more inflammation. Not enough sleep, and actually trauma. So undealt with trauma. So I think you can start to kind of connect the dots that, oh my gosh, I could be eating clean. I can be low calorie in a deficit. I can be doing all the workouts but not see results because my body's metabolism is slow. It sucks at burning calories because it's fighting against muscle breakdown. It's fighting against oxidative stress, blood sugar control issues, inflammation, and all four of these things are already getting worse during perimenopause and the years that follow that. So this is stuff that was likely already happening underneath the surface, but we didn't know because our hormonal levels were high enough that it kind of masked those issues, right? So now that the curtain's been pulled back, the estrogen has gone. Now you're aware of everything that your body was exposed to, and it's showing you these clear signs. But we're like, no. I must push harder. I must cut my calories more. I must cut out complete food groups. I must work out harder. And it's actually going to make these things worse, right? We talked about how overstressing the body and cutting your calories too low and doing too much exercise are all going to result in muscle breakdown, oxidative stress, more inflammation, and more blood sugar issues, which are the four big things underneath the surface that can absolutely be the thing preventing you from losing weight. We see this in women all the time. This is why we do so many assessments when people come into coaching with us, because we know that if you're eating at where you're eating right now and you're not seeing results, something is off. It's not just a calorie thing, right? There is something else going on. So this is, again, like I said, stuff that's probably already happening in your body. So what are you supposed to do, right? Because all of you are like, well, you just explained a lot of the things that I do, a lot of things that I've experienced, a lot of things that I have done in the past, and your body is an accumulation of everything that you've done up until this point. It carries it with you, right? So what am I to do? Because you're talking to me, Steph. Well, number one, we need to make sure that you're actually eating enough food first, which people are like, what? Let me explain this to you. So let's say when you first, and I have a beautiful graph of this in our Facebook community pinned to the top of our Facebook page. You should go check it out. It makes so much more sense when there's visuals. I'm going to try and use my hands, but it's only so good. And it also shows like muscle mass and fat mass and all the things on the graph. It's beautiful. I love me some visuals. But let's talk about this. So you had where you're supposed to be. Let's say like you asked us to calculate your calories and you're like, 2,100 calories? What the heck, Steph? That's where you quote unquote should be, right? But this is why we ask you so many questions, because we need to know why you're not losing weight where you are right now. Because if your maintenance is calculated to be like 2,100 calories and you're eating at 1,500 and you're not losing weight, there's something else going on. So typically what we see is you used to be at 2,100 calories. This was your sweet spot, but you did that first diet. And instead of just going down to like 1,800, which is reasonable, you went down to like 1,400, 1,300, 1,200, because Weight Watchers and Noom and all those things are incredibly low calorie, but they use the points and the color systems and all those things that you don't know what you're eating at. When you actually calculate it, you're like, holy crap, I'm eating very little, right? So you went from 2,100 calories to now 1,500 calories. And you stay there and you were seeing weight loss and it was happening so quickly. And you're like, yeah, this is amazing, amazing, amazing. So you stayed there for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. We only keep people in a fat loss phase for 3 months because then we start to see their metabolism start to decline, their hormonal issues start to come back, and those are all clear signs that your body is starting to adapt to a slow metabolism. It's not happy, it's not healthy, it's not where we want to be. And also you're losing a lot of muscle mass, which is a no-no. So your metabolism starts to slow down. And you're like, well, Steph, I didn't change anything. Why would my metabolism slow down? Your body internally has so many systems to try and match calories in, calories out. So this will go through like your thyroid. This will happen through hormones. This will happen by getting rid of muscle mass. All of these things that you don't even realize are happening internally to slow down your metabolism. So over time, while you're sitting at this 1,400 calories or whatever you did, your maintenance calories come down and come down and come down and come down, and boom, now it's at 1,400 calories. So your maintenance is probably 1,300 to 1,500 calories, say in that range. You finish the diet and you go boom, right back up to 1,800 or whatever it might be. But you didn't do anything to actually bring your metabolism back up internally. You didn't focus on building up back good muscle mass. You didn't do things to support your thyroid. You didn't do things to help bring metabolism back up. So your maintenance is actually still around 1,400 calories, but you just jumped up. And when you jumped up, you probably also quit doing your workouts. You probably also didn't do as many steps. You didn't prioritize protein as much, whatever it might be, right? So now we have this massive difference between calories in and calories out, but your maintenance is 1,400 calories. So now you have this big gap, weight gain. Then you panic and you decide to try and do a diet again. So you drop down, but the results aren't as good. And you're like, what the heck's happening? It's because that metabolism is still stuck in this low place. So we need to bring it back up appropriately. And we can't just be like, oh, I'm eating 1,800 calories, I'm good. No, like we have to focus on all the things that are going to help boost your metabolism, like the sleep, the stress reduction, the food timing, paying attention to the kinds of foods that you're eating. Are you getting enough protein? Are we having our breakfast? There's so many things, building the muscle mass, all the stuff to bring that metabolism back up. So now you actually have room to drop again. Because if you're at 1,400 calories and you drop lower, your body's going to see a drastic drop in hormone production. It's too much stress. And it's almost like a budget, like, oh, I don't have enough calories, so I need to budget that. Your body's going to use those calories in a specific way. It's going to prioritize things like your brain and your heart beating, right? Breathing. It's not going to care about your hair. Your hair is going to start to thin. Your nails are going to start to thin. Your skin is going to start to age more. You're going to see that like you lose a lot of muscle mass and muscle tone, right? You're going to see all these things, the hormonal changes, lack of sleep, all the stuff because your body doesn't have enough of what it needs. So just like if all of a sudden your salary got cut, you'd probably stop going to Starbucks as much. You would probably not get your hair done as much, right? You would cut out the essentials. And unfortunately, your body doesn't care about weight loss and your body doesn't care about hormones because you can live without them. It's not a good time, but you can. You can live without eyelashes and hair, nails, right? All those things. Not important. So we need to make sure that you are first getting enough food so your body is good. It is primed for fat loss. Your metabolism is in a good, healthy place. And then we can go into fat loss, right? But okay, Steph, how much am I supposed to be eating then? And how do I get there? Just book a free assessment calorie calculation call. We do this for free for every woman who ever asks. There are no strings attached. We don't talk about coaching. We are just here to simply serve you and help you to make sure that you are doing what you need to do and getting the right advice, because calories are more than just, how active you are, how old you are, and how heavy you weigh and how tall you are. Like that's not enough information. Like we need to know hormones, perimenopause, past dieting, how long you dieted for, your sleep, your stress, your energy, digestion, your kinds of activity levels, because all those things are going to influence how much you should be eating and how far off you are, right? So it's not just a quick calorie calculation. Like we need to know a lot more. So that's why we offer this as a free service for women, because it's really important. So number one, what to do? Make sure you're eating enough food first. That's step number one for everything always. Number two, we want to make sure that you are eating a diet that is rich in whole foods. It is minimally processed foods. So this includes your health foods, because a keto wrap and a low carb bread thing, like those are all highly processed foods, right? So we want to make sure that you have high fiber, high protein, whole foods, minimal ingredients, making things at home more, making sure you're having protein and carbs at every single meal. That's step number two. Again, basics. But the basics long enough work, okay? We need to make sure your body's in a good position. Number three, make sure that you are doing workouts that actually build muscle mass over breaking it down. If you do not know what this looks like, again, just book a consultation call and we will help you figure out how to modify your workout so it's actually getting you the results that you want. And you can also message me for this. I'm happy to answer that like via DMs through Instagram and Facebook. Like that's totally fine as well. But a lot of the workouts that women are doing are not doing anything to build muscle mass. If you're following YouTube workouts, if you're doing the HIIT and the F45s and the boot camps and the circuit trainings and the 30-second rest and lots of running and spin classes, all those things, that's not going to build muscle. What builds muscle is lifting heavier. That's challenging. You might be like, oh, it's heavy. Can you lift the weight more than 10 times? Then it's probably too light for you, because there's no reason for your body to build or maintain muscle mass if it's not being challenged to do so. It can already do what you're asking it to do. And if it can do more than what you're asking it to do, it'll pare down muscle mass to match only what it needs. Our body is inherently lazy. It doesn't want to do more than it has to. So you need to push yourself to like 10 reps and you can't do more than 12. And you're working to get stronger every week. If you're not, there's no reason for your body to build or hold on to muscle mass. And again, this is so crucial during perimenopause and menopause, because as estrogen declines and cortisol goes up, you are going to lose muscle. The statistics show it. So we need to make sure that we are really prioritizing this. Then we need to consider how you eat. So you want to make sure that you are eating most of your veggies and protein first before dipping into your carbs. Carbs and protein are are at every single meal. Protein, you're having 0.5 gram or 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, up to about 150 grams per person, because that ends up being a lot. But again, increase slowly. You want to eat every 4 to 5 hours a nice balanced meal. You can have snacks in between, but we don't want to be someone who's constantly grazing all the time. That's not great for our blood sugar. Consider cutting out alcohol and quitting smoking if you're very serious about it, right? If you say that this is really important to you, you really want to improve your health, you really want to lose the weight, those might be things you need to think about considering decreasing or getting rid of, right? Sleep, massive for muscle maintenance, improving your inflammation, bringing your cortisol levels to where they need to be, lowering oxidative stress, improving your blood sugar levels. This is massive. If you are not sleeping well, you are going to be very hard pressed to see good changes. It's very, very challenging, like very hard. So one thing that we do with a lot of our clients is we actually introduce a bedtime snack. And people are like, what? I thought if you ate after 8 p.m., you turn into a pumpkin and then all of a sudden you gain 20 pounds. No. So why we introduce a bedtime snack with a lot of our clients is that having a carbohydrate before bed, which people are like, oh, carbs before bed, that cannot be true. Yes, carbs that are slow digesting with a protein or a fat, what that does is it helps stabilize your blood sugars throughout the nighttime. The carbohydrates help lower cortisol and bring out melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone. That's going to help you fall asleep. By pairing the carbohydrate with a fat or protein, it's going to digest more slowly and stabilize your blood sugars through the night. And then you're not going to see a blood sugar drop, because if your blood sugar drops, then you're going to see cortisol spike to try and bring your blood sugars back up, which is then going to cause you to wake up, because cortisol is what makes you wake up in the morning. So by having that bedtime snack, you're going to fall asleep easier and you're going to stay asleep longer. You can have this like an hour before bed. It's only like 100 to 200 calories, nothing too major. We're actually releasing a new bedtime snack guide with different ideas and recipes in our Facebook group right away here. So make sure that you join it so that you don't miss out on that. But this makes a massive difference. You got to find what the right combination is for you. But some of my personal favorites are popcorn with like cheese or a turkey pepperoni stick. I like doing yogurt with some higher protein granola. I like doing oatmeal with like the Fairlife milk in it. I like doing meat, cheese, and crackers. You can do the protein bites or the protein balls. Those are really good as well. I know some people do well with just like a rice cake with some peanut butter, seems to do well with them, but you have to see if that's like enough for you, because it might not be enough. Or I like to do whole grain toast with peanut butter. That's like a really great one for me as well. So sleep, massive. We know if you're not getting sleep, you're going to lose less fat, lose more muscle, see more oxidative stress, all those things. We don't want that. So the biggest thing for anything that you can do is cortisol, because anything that's going to improve your cortisol levels is going to make a massive improvement in all 4 areas. You're going to see better improvements in being able to build and maintain muscle mass. You're going to see better blood sugar regulation. You're going to see less oxidative stress. You're going to see less inflammation. You are going to sleep better. You are going to have more energy. You are going to have fewer cravings. All of these things are going to really help support your internal processes to make sure that you are actually able to get to where you want to be. Because again, you can be hitting your macros. You can be hitting your calories. You can be eating quote unquote clean. You can be working out consistently. But if you don't address these 4 areas, good luck. You're not going to see the changes that you want, or not as optimally. However, you need to be aware that in order to improve these 4 areas, by improving cortisol, by improving blood sugar, by building muscle, reducing oxidative stress and inflammation, it is not a 30-day thing. This is something that's going to take time, because you've been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, right? It takes time for our body to adapt to what we're telling it to do. Building muscle, especially once our estrogen levels decline, takes time. Like, you'd be lucky to put on 10 pounds of muscle in a year. It takes time, but to lose 10 pounds of muscle, you could do that in a couple months easy. So this is why it's really important to understand that the healing aspect of your journey is probably going to take you longer than you want. It always is. We always want to see results yesterday, right? However, it's going to make the fat loss process easier, but it's also going to make it permanent. Aren't you sick and tired of every January hopping on the next fad diet, doing the same thing every single year, going, this is my year, and then coming back to the 31st of December the following year and being like, dang it, I'm going to try it again. But you don't do anything differently, right? It's just another extreme calorie reduction, crazy workouts. We need to make sure that we are doing this right so that we are maintaining your metabolism throughout this entire process. We are supporting your hormones, which is even more important now that you're in perimenopause and menopause. And then absolutely being able to lose weight and then keep it off. But these are 4 areas that most people do not understand, that they haven't even considered. This is why we have so many coaches reach out to us for help. This is why we have so many menopausal nurse specialists reach out to us for help, because they're realizing that they're going through it, that it's not working, the advice that they were giving them of the eat less, move more, eat clean, fast, right? It's not working. So if you want to join us with our 8-week group coaching to really learn all these things, to set your body up for success, to make sure we're addressing these 4 major areas so that way you can lose weight and you can start to lose weight, join us. All the information is in the show notes. I hope that I see you soon, and make sure to share this with all your friends. Love you. Bye.